Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Tiabu and I am here for Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, another rewind. We are starting with episode 21 and the title drop of the OP, A Sign of Zeta. We just had the heated escape, which came directly after Cinderella 4, having met the girl and told her about all his problems and bonded with her in the most poignant and powerful way. Camille is let go and shot up off into space to begin again. And so there we are. Let me pull us up and let's get going. I expect to do about an hour of this before ending and moving along. We'll see how many episodes that gets us through. The Titans begin to prepare for Operation Apollo to conquer Von Braun's city on the near side of the moon. Display of power and control over both the Earth Federation and the Space Noids. Of course, that doesn't fucking work. You can march around displaying your power, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna make a lot of people scared, and sure, the people who are scared are going to react like scared sheep to some extent, but man, anybody with a spine is gonna stand up against you, and you're gonna make your own life way harder. Alright, Jamatov Hyman, what a name! Can we take a step back and just say Jamatov Hyman is quite a name. Is approached by the Degosse Gear, a Titan's ship captained by Paptimus, Mr. Sirocco himself, who was piloting the Masala and had a few quick encounters with the Argama. Yeah, we've run into each other a couple of times, but had no idea who that boy really was, and now we're about to find out. The Titan's leader reminisces on the loyalty oath pledged to him by Sirocco. On the Argama, Bright wonders about the Titan's fleet since it left Grips. He and Emachine wonder about their target, while Camille starts a fight with Torres and Saigusa. I'm just gonna hoot at. Right. And right. Normal folks on the ship who are useful and friendly. Emma lectures Camille, reads him like a book, and deduces that he fell in love while on Earth. I remember that. Her being like, her saying something that was like, whoa, Emma really understands what Camille's going through in a weird way. And that he is now lonely, and that is why he's snapping at others. He's carrying around his own problems, and like many people do, he's making them other people's problems. Gosh, that's quick. This might be the fastest time to Tiabu anecdote that we've had. The other night, it was like 11:30, and I was finishing up my meal. I was eating late. I've taken to eating a big carb-loaded, like complex carbohydrate-loaded meal right before bed. A lot of people say that that's not what you shouldn't do that, and I don't understand that. I listened to a couple of people who are like, "Oh, this stuff seems to work," and so I've been experimenting with it. And what happens is it knocks you the fuck out because the rest and digest system of your body and brain is rest and digest, and for long time, our ancestors ate around a fire and went the fuck to sleep. So, doesn't seem to make sense to avoid the thing. Anyway, I was making my meal, and one of my roommates came home from work, and he came in, and he sort of shuffled around a little bit, and he went, ah. Not a legitimate sigh, but the kind of sigh that's like, hey, pay attention to me. Hey, pay attention to me. And I didn't. I kept going with my thing. So he walks up, he starts doing some things, and he starts telling me, God, such a shitty day. So much shit went down, this fucking thing happened, and they made me do this. I just walked away. I went and got my headphones. I walked back in, started putting my headphones in, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, hey, I'm putting my headphones in so you don't tell me more about your shitty day. And he went, that's a dick move, dude. And I said, no, a dick move is coming home and making your problems my problems. Then I put my headphones in and I continued to make my dinner. Was it a dick move? Yes. It would have been more of a dick move, I think, if I hadn't told him about it. But I think I pissed him off. Regardless, the point is this. A lot of people do this. They complain about the things that are going on in their life to the people around them. And something that I've learned, and it's a harsh thing to learn, is that nobody cares. Everybody's carrying around their own goddamn hardship, and they don't need to carry your cross too. Pick up your own bullshit and go. So am I an asshole? Yes. Am I a little bit more sane because I don't have to deal with the problems of all the people around me? Yes. Especially the ones that I have no bearing on and can do nothing about. A lot of people get a therapeutic response from venting, from expressing their difficulties. But it's easy to forget that when you do that, in many ways, what you are doing is just offloading the problem to somebody else. And you're materially and directly and dramatically harming them by doing so. And Camus is doing exactly that. He's not specifically like walking around expressing his problems in an effective way. But you can imagine that sort of a circumstance. Man, Torres, you know, I met this really cool girl out there, and I really felt like we connected. And then I told her about all my problems, and she pointed a gun at me and told me to get the fuck out of her spaceship. I don't get it, man. I don't understand. Why did I get you know? Are you reducing the total suffering in the world by venting about your problems? Probably not. Are you going to gain anything by venting about your problems? Probably not. Probably you're just making yourself hurt, and you're annoying the fuck out of the person that you're telling about your problems. So there's the anecdote for the day. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Was it a dick move on my part? I think so. Was it a necessary move on my part? I think so. I don't know. Do you find yourself to be a venter? Do you find yourself to be the kind of person that people vent to? Because I'm the kind of person that people vent to. I listen in fullness when I'm really paying attention to somebody. I really listen to them. And I'm also, it's a problem, it's a struggle that I have to some extent. And I try to solve a thing-er. Maybe it's a guy thing. I don't know. A lot of men that I know express this kind of thing, or I've seen it expressed by a lot of men on the internet and elsewhere, that when people tell them about their problems, they try to fix them. It's a common complaint in relationships from women who will say things like, sometimes I just want to tell you about the problem and I don't want you to try to fix it. I just want you to listen. That's terrible. That's the worst. That sounds awful to me. That sounds terrible. Oh, you're going to tell me about the problems, but you don't want them to be solved when the solution is obvious and it's you? That's not going to work very well for me. Because the solution is obvious and it's you. But that's neither here nor there. All right. Let me know what you think of it. Again, if I was being a dick, let me know. And if you have an alternative or a better way of handling a circumstance like that, let me know. Because I try to embody real radical honesty, which in this situation is, I don't want to hear about your shit, man. And that's a dick move, but I got to put walls around my own sanity. So let me know what you think, and if you do have suggestions or better ways that could be handled, I'd be really interested in figuring them out. Okay. Sirocco informs Jamaicon that the Gossagear will be taking independent action. Jamaicon gives Sirocco permission to do so, as long as he reunites with the rest of the fleet in time for the operation. Jared and Mawa are getting used to their brand new Gabthly, courtesy of Paptimus Sirocco. Let me just check. Gabthly. Okay, it's the bug-eyed big boy with the gun out in the front and the thing. Yeah, okay, cool. We're not on flippy whippy blue manta rays yet. Blue manta rays is next. Cool. Jared doesn't understand Sirocco's true intentions, of course, but is thrilled at the prospect of destroying the Mark II with this new weapon, right? Of course, Jared is just focused on his own individual goal. Sirocco arrives in the Masala and takes a particular interest in Maur's skills. Maur inquires about Sirocco about his objectives, compares them with the goals of the Aeug. He tells her that the Aeug is no different from the Earth Federation, which is interesting. Jared doesn't seem convinced, and Sirocco tells them that Jamatov's plan is to start a war that will exhaustively force the economy into the brink, eradicating the Earth's population through mass famine. Interesting. His objectives diverge from the Aeug in what happens after the Earth has been freed from mankind, as Sirocco believes that someone should rule humanity after all is over. Okay, I feel like, and this is something that we should jump out and say, explicitly and specifically, the wiki here is useful, but the wiki is not by any stretch of the imagination a an impartial observation or a statement about what's really going on in the show. It's a pretty good attempt, but it's written by a person, by a fan of the show who's got their own ideas about what everything means. And they're right about a lot of things and wrong about a lot of things. And because it's a wiki, there's the opportunity for other people to jump in and alter text, but it's become quite clear to me that most of this wiki has been written by, as far as I can tell, one person. I suppose we could possibly go down and see like the wiki history and stuff. I don't know. History. Filter revisions. Created page by Katie. It's unclear. Kurone Koe Koe. Yeah, it's unclear. I don't remember. I don't actually know how wiki writing works very well, to be totally honest. But it seems to me that we should take everything that's in the wiki with a couple of grains of salt, just to be certain that we've got that out there. This is one person's interpretation of the piece of media, or one group of people's interpretation of the piece of media, and it's by no means a source to be held on high. It's just very useful as a condensation of the thing for us to go through. Eradicate the Earth's population through mass famine. Okay. Kamyu, Torres, and Saigusa make amends. Sirocco has Jared launch in the Gab fleet a scout, where he comes across the Argama and its crew quickly assume battle positions. They launch in their respective mobile suits. Both are shocked by the firing power and mobility of the Gab fleet. Jared makes quick work of Emma's Rick Diaz, forces her to use an escape pod, and then sets his sight on the Mark II. It gets worse when Mao arrives on her Gab fleet. The fight is now 2-on-1, and Kamyu is totally outmatched. He's nearly killed when Fa and Apolly show up with an armored transport shuttle and the Zeta Gundam in Wave Rider mode as a last-minute rescue. Jared ends up in the infirmary after having his Gab fleet destroyed by Apollo, who's piloting the Zeta Gundam for the first time. That is really interesting, that it's Apolly who pilots the Zeta Gundam really for the first time, not Kamyu. It's pretty interesting. Sirocco takes advantage of the situation and attempts to seduce Mauer. Back at the Argama, Kamyu and Fa are properly reunited after so long and share a long, loving hug. Yeah, properly reunited. I want to check that in terms of Sirocco taking advantage of the situation where Jared is gone and attempting to seduce Mauer. So we're going to add an element to the rewinds, which is this. When things like that pop up that I'm interested in seeing how they actually play out, I'm more than happy to pull up the episode itself because I still have the episodes downloaded, and I'm going to... Where the fuck are they? I'm going to pull up the episode and go to that point and see what the fuck is going on. Doodly whoop. Over to here. So she's out there waiting as Jared is getting touched by doctors. Ooh, male presenting nipple. Nothing serious. Just bruises and I'm out. How clumsy of me. To the contrary, your daily training has made you tougher. Mauer is chilling. She looks over. And we get... Good to hear. Wow. Quite specific then. If you have a particular fetish for boys, that's fine, but you should be on my dick. But I'm the only one with the ability to fulfill your ambitions. Yeah. Quite literal and straightforward is Sirocco here. You should be with me instead. What a snake. As long as you remain ambitious, you'd be wise not to forget that. And there is quid pro quo sexual harassment going on there as well. I'm in the position of power and I can fulfill your ambitions. Ha ha ha. Nante otoko. Interesting. So I did not recall that being quite that straightforward there. And then back on the Argama, Kamyu and Fa are properly reunited and share a long, loving hug. Very good for episode 21. Let me see. Did I do 21 on its own? No, I did 21 and 22 together. So we'll go and we'll do 21 A Sign of Zeta for the glory here. We got a good guy Jared counter. It's been a long while. How about that? Plays around with Mauer in a good-natured manner. shows dedication and promise to avenge his loved ones by seeing the Gadfly as a way he can defeat the Gundam rather than just a new suit, right? It's a route to a goal that is quite specific that Jared has. Mauer is able to resist Sirocco's attempt at mind control because she's devoted to Jared, harboring a semi-hidden crush on her partner. Tries to mind control Mauer in a way that appears to be seducing rather than outright mind control. Jared shows disgust at Sirocco, despite not even being aware that Mauer is in love with him. Jared is irritated by Sirocco being like that type of man that Lila previously disliked, holding to his principles, the ones that he got from Lila. That's an interesting way to see it. Continues to be suspicious of totally not megalomaniacal Sirocco when he comes across him talking to Mauer. Is outraged when he hears that his faction's goals are a facade and that Gemitov is using the Titans to accomplish the opposite goal that they were created for. Is skeptical of Sirocco's plans to rule the Earth, which is a good thing. Decides that he'll step over Sirocco instead of just letting him have his way. Doesn't want help from a partner, likely because the last time he had a friend help, they died horribly. And the time before that. We call that foreshadowing in the business. Fuck. Sorry, Mauer. Takes the time to warn Mauer of the new enemies instead of first getting himself out of harm's way. Interesting. Mauer comments that Sirocco, in trying to get her to be his follower again, has an ego after he compares himself as superior to Jared, showing again that Jared's own ego has been humbled, and now it is other Titans who are being show-offs. Some stuff in here that I can't really get into or don't want to. Very cool. Here we got Zeomax. Come here, don't hit people. Fuck, stop fighting. Hey, all right, the ruler will be a woman. That's an interesting one because that's where we're at in the thing, in the place where we're at in like episode 30-something. They wouldn't kill Emma so nonchalantly, right? Right? Oh, thanks, Tomino. Fa is now a pilot. Cool, I guess. Yeah, about that. Zeta Gundam is coming. I love how Bright just passes by, didn't interrupt a moment. Yeah, well, Bright has good senses, you know? He's got good vibes. Because Camus seems to have regressed somewhat. He's gone back to talking back and getting into fights with the others on the Argama. And Bright has to use his mighty fists. Yeah, well, that says something pretty interesting about people. Again, I'm going to jump off. This isn't a specific anecdote, but more of a framed idea, which is, you start out as a little shit, and you make some strides into not being a little shit anymore. Good job. And then some conflict rears its head in your life, on the inside of you, and you snap right back into being a little shit again. Right into the same old habits, the same coping mechanisms, the same way of being. Anyone who's ever broken an addiction knows exactly that this is true. Whether it's an addiction to a chemical or an addiction to a type of behavior, the moment that something stresses you, it stresses your ability to remain the person that you have built yourself into. As an example, a simple example, I quit nicotine months ago. And still, and I'm past the point of cravings. I don't get cravings for nicotine or vapes anymore. And still, when something stresses me out or I have a moment of conflict, even like the simple one that I expressed earlier, it begins to worm its way back in as I get stressed out. Or similarly, my friend and roommate, same person, he's improved immensely on all sorts of spectra. In terms of his relationships with family, in terms of his relationships with himself, his relationship with work, all sorts of spectra. He's improved immensely. And then part of the improvement is that he went and he got a second job. And that second job means less sleep, a lot less sleep for him. Less sleep, more stress, more work, more of all these things. And over the past months, he has slid back and regressed significantly in the way that he interacts with others, in the way that he interacts with himself. He's even picked up his vape again and unquit nicotine. The backsliding occurs as the stress increases. The threshold becomes different. And that seems exactly right. Camus, in his circumstances, made immense strides toward becoming a more adult human being, as has Jared. And then under stress, emotional stress, broken connection, misunderstanding, confusion around 4 and everything, Camus slides back into the same persona that he was before, fighting against authority, rebelling against everything around him. And, as we see here, he did fall in love with 4 and misses the connection that he had with her. He only calms down when Fa comes back at the end of the episode, and she is able to provide him with some comfort and connection. A reduction of stress in a positive manner. And that allows him to almost, in a weird way, I like the phrasing here, to remember himself, or more accurately, to remember the self that he's been building out of himself. Oh, right, I was on this path of becoming better. But it's hard to remember that when you're stressed out. That seems very correct. Jared's back! Working with green-haired, yep. Both working with that mysterious purple-haired dude. His name is Paptimus Sirocco, but I'm going to call him Poppy. Aye, Poppy. Nope. Not that Poppy. I was thinking I Poppy. Aye. Because it's shorter and because it amuses me. I really wonder whether this individual knows what Poppy means. I live in a largely Hispanic community, so when I hear I Poppy, that's like, ooh, daddy. It's in that realm of things. They make a pretty good combo, yes. Poppy, fuck, that's hilarious. Sees both the Federation and the AUG as being bound by gravity, whatever that means. Well, I've got some ideas about what that means. And unable to leave the Earth sphere. He says he's opposed to both of them, and it talks about the need for a new ruler, a woman, and a particular new ruler, one from far away in the Jupiterist area. Yeah. And a junior officer with pink hair who is with Poppy and who's specifically pointed out by Mauer. Right. Might she be who Poppy is talking about when he says the next ruler of Earth will be a woman? I remember that I had the same thought, but that's not correct. Sirocco has taken a literal blood oath to Gematov and his cronies. Right. Some good animation. I believe in a sign of Zeta. Yes! Yes, let us trust this guy who made a blood oath when nobody asked for it, and his contract talks about him in case he betrays everyone. Sirocco is totally a stand-up dude. Yep. You know, Camus pretty much pissed away all the development he got on Earth by picking that fight. Bingo. Jared and Mauer are a good couple, for now. Oof. Camus is quite the player. Maybe he just has a thing for girls whose names start with F. I've got a friend who's got a thing for girls whose names start with K. It's weird. He just ends up dating girls whose names start with K. Got no explanation for that. It's just the universe is strange. Okay, cool. I think that'll be it for that bit of the rewatch thread. And 21 and 22 are together here, so I'll pop 22 open. And unfortunately, so what is the episode titled? The Eyes of Sirocco. Unfortunately, the wiki is broken. There's an error in the Lua script, which is the script coding to index the series to trace it. So I have to go to Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam episodes, and I have to go to Eyes of Sirocco. I'm gonna see some of the other titles. They don't mean anything to me. Sorry. The Eyes of Sirocco. Jared returns to the bridge. Prepared to be reprimanded, he is surprised when he actually gets appointed to the leader as the leader of a battle squadron with 2 subordinates, Sarah and Sidley, who is built to die because she is built to die. Watching them, Mauer assumes that Sirocco is trying to bring Jared under his wing. Camus is inspecting the Zeta Gundam when Fa appears. They have a long argument about Fa's interest in becoming a pilot. She tells him it is a necessity as the AU can't rely on Camus all the time. Bright and Emma talk about Camus' lack of focus, something that deep down is what is actually troubling Fa. That makes sense. Rakoa launches in a new mobile suit from the Radish, an AU ship being captained by Henken, who has a crush on her. She is tasked with bringing this new mobile suit, the Methis, along with an upgrade module to the Mark II, the G Defensor, back to the Argama. Jared is rather harsh toward both Sarah and Sidley, but gets them to participate in a sortie. They end up crossing paths with Rakoa and Mario, who are on their way towards the Argama with the Methis and the G Defender. Sidley suggests calling on the Dagos Gear for backup, but is overruled by Jared. Bright sends Camille and Emma as reinforcements. Fa follows them in the Rick Diaz, disregarding her direct orders to stay at the ship, right? Because this is the arc of Fa trying to pilot when Tomino thinks that women shouldn't pilot, right? Yeah, okay, cool. You're going against the fundamental nature of the universe, Fa. Don't do that. Bad Fa. No piloting for girls. Sexism. Cool. At the Degosi Garrett, Mauer pleads with Sirocco for permission to assist Jared, right, but he refuses, instead watching how Jared handles the situation. He tells the girls to coordinate their movements, but Sarah, who has grown resentful of him, disregards his advice. Their small team enters into the battle unaided, and Siddeley's Marasai is destroyed by Camille, who's piloting the Zeta. In panic, Sarah retreats without orders, and he is also finally forced to back down. Defeated and ashamed once again, he receives sympathizing words from Mauer and Sirocco before leaving to get some rest. Afterwards, Sirocco talks with Sarah, who assures him that she will get used to battle if those are his orders. The Methus and the Defensor are now safely aboard the Argama. Fa is reprimanded for her recklessness in combat, and then Rikoa gives Emma a small gift from Henken. Cool. And we get the Methus introduced, which is going to be Fa's main ship as she moves forward. Awesome. Cool. 22 on the rewatch thread. Good guy Jared. Good guy Jared. The most successful episode as of yet, with 20 instances of good guy behavior. Jared, the true hero of Zeta, so far. I'm going to pour my toffee. Wait, what? This is toffee. Why is it called toffee? It's because it's tea with some coffee in it. And some cinnamon. I'll tell you what's in it. It is primarily yerba mate as the caffeine source, with some Moroccan mint green tea, which is a mint medley with some gunpowder green tea, and then it's got a scoopful of just ground coffee, not great quality, some cacao nibs for extra chocolatiness in there. Really delicious. Highly recommend pick up a bag of cacao nibs. They're really nutrient dense. Don't have them too close to bedtime, but they're really nutrient dense because they do have some caffeine in them. They're really nutrient dense, and putting a little bit of them into some tea makes it taste chocolatey. It's really good. I really like it a lot. Some of that, and then also some raw powdered cinnamon just for spiciness. And the reason for the spiciness is because it is a gray, gloomy day today, and I would like to be warm and drink some cinnamony, spicy beverage. That tastes mostly like coffee. All right, so I put too much coffee in it this time. That's fine. I don't love coffee, but I'm okay with it, and it's grown on me. There is something interesting about coffee that I'll mention, because it's something that I'll just mention. Let me look and make sure that I get it right. First off, coffee protects dopaminergic neurons. Fascinating. Interacts with the dopaminergic system, which leads to improvements in neurobehavioral measures in animal models of depression or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And is involved in GABAergic and glutaminergic receptors. It seems to suppress inhibitory activity and modulate the GABA receptors. And it also seems to upregulate the sensitivity that you have to adenosine receptors, something like that, which, as far as I can tell, means that it makes you more effective long-term at experiencing the adrenaline that is released by your body. Like, it upregulates the receptors themselves. We know that caffeine and stimulants are adrenaline or adenosinergic. They produce that adrenaline response, that epinephrine in your body, which is part of what gives you energy. But then long term, they actually make you more sensitive to the stuff itself. So including a bit of coffee into my regimen seems to be valuable. I don't know. I might have made a bajillion mistakes. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm just repeating what I can understand and try to grok from neuroscientists. But what I remember is that coffee specifically, not just caffeine itself, but coffee, something else about the beans, makes you more sensitive long-term to other sources of caffeine. Weird. in like a safer way, which means that you need to dose it less. And what you need is you need less adrenaline in order to achieve. And adrenaline itself is very it's hard on your body. So less of it is a good thing, and you need less of it in order to achieve the same results in terms of cognition and energy. Pretty interesting. Okay. Reports to his ship's bridge to face the consequences of his error in a battle that cost him a mobile suit and a person, both showing that he is responsible and willing to own up to his mistakes, is irritated when he thinks he's going to be given lenience due to perceived pity, is willing to put his grievances with Sirocco behind him when Sirocco offers him a hand in friendship and partnership. Yep. When given fresh recruits, he's worried that their lack of experience will bring them to harm on the battlefield, and justifiably. When Sarah says that she would never take someone's life, Jared shows concern, since that kind of attitude both defeats the purpose of being a pilot and also will put her life and others in danger. Despite being rookies, Jared does not ignore them and try to pawn them off on someone else like the other Titans might, instead taking them under his wing and trying to teach them. And, despite feeling personally annoyed at his assignment, he goes along with it anyways and does not let it impact him outside of his attitude, demonstrating professionalism. Even the smug Sirocco compliments him, revealing that Jamaicon, of all people, had good things to say about Jared's abilities. He does not smack Sidley for her constant know-it-all attitude and backtalk, like almost every other character in Zeta would, true. When he notices that Sarah is not paying attention, he tells her to wake up out of concern. Make sure to see that if the new mobile suit encountered his friend or foe, similar to how Lila had done earlier in the show, instead of just assuming that it's an enemy, showing both care for possible allies and unwillingness to cause them harm if possible, even if it costs him an advantage in battle. The surprise advantage, very true. Even the chronically complaining Sidley feels like she can trust Jared as her commander, gives them the same advice for combat that he and Kakrikon and now he and Mauer use, trying to teach them how to fight as a unit instead of individually. Even Sarah, who complained as much as Sidley for no reason, came to see that team coordination, as Jared said, is useful, showing respect for his advice, tells Sidley to watch out, warning her about Camu's approach, displaying actual worry in his voice despite his differences with the new recruit, shows determination to keep fighting even after her death, even as his only ally on the battlefield retreats, and only when surrounded does he pull back. And that may be a good guy, Jared. It might be an over-dedication thing, but fair enough. Sees Sidley's death on his own fault, radical responsibility, and expects to be mocked for it, revealing a low opinion of himself. I don't know about a low opinion of himself. I see this as humility. And his actions stemming from the pain of losing yet another teammate, as well as that he blames himself for things outside of his control rather than blame his allies for their own failures and deaths. Bingo. There it is. There's the humility coupled with radical responsibility. Humble enough to say, this could have been my fault, even when it might not have been his fault. That's a really powerful thing. It's a thing that I endeavor toward, that I'm not perfect at in any stretch of the imagination, but radical responsibility, or as Jocko Willink would call it, radical ownership, because that's the book that he wrote, is a concept of saying that whatever it is that's going on, you assign responsibility to yourself, not to other people, to yourself. And you know that this works. You know that this works, and here's why you know that it works. You know that it works in the opposite way, which is that when things go on around you, and your initial impulse is to deflect and to separate yourself from the flaws, to say, that's not my fault, that's the fault of that person, or society, or people in general, or blah, 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 blah. You can come up with excuses and deflections for everything. I've got a friend who does exactly that with everything. An excuse for everything, an argument against everything, a deflection against everything. It's never, ever, ever in any way his responsibility. But that's not my responsibility. What am I, my brother's keeper? What, I'm supposed to be paying attention? No, that's not my fault. It can't be my fault. I'm not responsible for her actions. I'm not responsible for his actions. I'm not responsible for the dishes in the sink. They're not my dishes. Right. So what are you responsible for? Not yourself, not the people around you, not the space that you live in. What are you responsible for? And then what are you good for? And the answer is nothing. And the question is, so then why do you matter? And the answer is, you don't. You try to distance yourself from all the things going on in your life, and you're detached completely. You don't have any impact. And what that leads to is a feeling like you don't have any control. Because if you were to say, I and this is an impossible thing, right? It's not true, technically. One statement would be this: I'm not responsible for the way that my mother acts. It's not my responsibility. An intermediate statement would be, I'm only responsible for what I say to my mother. And then the radical responsibility, radical ownership way would be, I am directly responsible for my mother's reactions to what I say. It's my responsibility. And if you frame things in that way, suddenly that's inside the circle of things that you are capable of controlling. And so you say, I am responsible for the fact that my mother exploded and yelled at me and was flipping her shit. That was my fault. How could I do differently? Because if I'm responsible for it, then maybe I could be responsible for a good relationship between myself and that person. Maybe I could be responsible for a different kind of interaction. Maybe I could have some power, some agency, some choice. And it seems to me that the more that you frame things around you in that way, the more you feel like you can actually be in control of your existence and your life. And I think pretty much everybody would like to feel like they are, to some extent, in control of their life. How far do you let that extend? Is there a limit to it? Is there a limit to it? People will say things like, well, I'm not responsible for the injustice inherent in the system. It's not my responsibility. I just go on with my life. Yeah, but what if you were to frame it differently? What if you were to say, yeah, the system's way bigger than I am, sure, but I am directly responsible for all the racism in the country. It's my responsibility. I'm a part of that. Is it literally true? Well, I don't know. But if you frame things in that way, I am responsible for it, then you're no longer just going along with it, being battered around by the flood of the zeitgeist or the flood of what exists. You sort of stand up and begin to have some agency. And maybe the truth is that you're not responsible for all the systemic injustice in the system. Okay. But you could be responsible for your own. And instead of deflecting and saying, well, that's just the way things are, I'm just going along with the flow, man. I'm just following orders. Maybe you could be better than that. He blames himself for things outside of his control rather than blame his allies for their own failures and deaths. It's like a defining trait of bad leaders, of like evil villains and stuff, is that they look around and they go, whose fault was that? We failed in the mission. Whose fault was it? It was that asshole's fault. You see it in Spaceballs. I'm surrounded by assholes. I knew it. When the biggest asshole is the one in the giant helmet, right? Whose fault was it that the mission failed? And all the people go, man, maybe it was the fault of the guy who ordered us on the mission. You get this cycle of everybody pushing responsibility away from themselves. And so nobody's responsible, and so nobody's in control, and everybody feels like shit, and everybody feels like they don't have any agency or will. It's a shitty way to live. Try it. Just try it. Next time something happens that you want to say, that was out of my control, consider it from the other perspective, and consider it as, well, what if it is something that's actually in my control? What if there were a way that I could have prevented that from happening? You might not have, but just framing it that way opens the world to you. What if? Really cool. Even when being congratulated by Sirocco about the mission, Jared still feels as if it is a failure as well as his own fault, given that Sidley died. It seems that the constant loss of his comrades and his own survival so far is giving Jared survivor's guilt, yes. Believes that his lack of reinforcements, in reality caused by Sirocco emulating Jamaicon for a day, was because they do not have time for engaging the Argama, showing that Jared had faith that Sirocco was doing his job and not just being a jerk and depriving him of allied resources. And that's an interesting one too. Giving people who fuck up the benefit of the doubt. Jared doesn't know specifically that Sirocco fucked up, but he also doesn't walk into the room and go, why the fuck didn't I get resources, huh? Instead he goes, God damn it, I should have been better. I should have been better. We don't have time for this shit. That's my fault. Sorry. You got it, man. Sorry, I'm gonna iron myself out. And I think that's a part of it. There's a, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Is part of the idea. And then the other one is, how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast the mote out of thy brother's eye. Before you go criticizing somebody else, make sure that you're not the one who's blind. Put your own house in order before you critique the order of someone else's house. That's something that I must remember. Because I tend to arrogance. I've said so before. And so what Jared is doing is really a good guy thing. He says, man, it's my fault, not yours. Zeta transformation! Yeah, I remember we watched through this multiple times, and it is really spectacular, I think. The role as it transforms is really excellent. We see it a number of times in the next episodes coming through. The V snapping into place makes my heart flutter. Yeah, really impressive, really excellent. Haru is back. Listen to Jared, you damn kids. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave there, and now we can go to the comments for 21-22. We might only get through a few episodes this time. We are rapidly approaching the point of being lined up with where we're supposed to be, which is good. Sirocco is a character that is disgusting but interesting, and I believe it is important to mention a story to understand him better. One of the oldest stories in Japan is the tale of Genji, and the main character of the very first half is a prince. He basically had a mother's complex and grooms young girls, very young and many, to become ideal women modeled after his mother. This, in my opinion, is a parallel to Sirocco, who declares that the world after the war will be ruled by women, is not only training Pink Girl Sarah, but also getting touchy with Green Lady Mauer. My read is that Sirocco has made it his duty to groom the Queen of Earthsphere in his own image, and I believe Tomino took some ideas from the 1,000-year-old story to make this character. A fellow Gundam podcast enjoyer I see. I don't know which podcast they're talking about, but I think somebody's mentioned it many times. I don't remember. Finally, the mobile suit Zeta Gundam has arrived. Easily my favorite main mobile suit. Okay, many others. On the topic of burgers, I feel the way to hold one depends entirely on the individual burger. Either way, I personally always put the burger down at some point, but that's just me. Yeah, this is just something that I mentioned during the thing. If you have a proper burger and you put your burger down, you're fucked. You're fucked. You gotta eat the whole burger. You can one-hand it and do fine, but yeah. Basquash was my favorite anime. I've been told that by a couple of people in different times. Yeah, with that guy. Basquash. Okay. I'll torture him to death. The Masala pilot finally gets named. Paptimus Sirocco, the man from Jupiter. He's weird and kind of creepy to women. Yeah. Jared is reintroduced back into the story, and his savior, Mauer, gets a name. Jared beats Camus for the second time, and in a pretty dark turn for him, he decides to slowly crush Camus to death. But a single shot from the Zeta cripples and destroys his Gavfly. Sirocco's deal, in my opinion, seems to be that the future ruler of humanity is a woman. Who is it? I don't know, but it could be anyone. Even you. Are you ambitious? I can make your dream come true. In other words, I think he wants to groom the women around him into a ruler who would coincidentally be indebted to the man that put them there. So that's the thing, is the coincidental indebtedness. And I think beyond that, it's also like, you could be my queen. And there's this arrogance inherent to it that is, he believes himself worthy of being regent and potentially of being king. Even if he believes that it shouldn't be him and it should be the woman in power. He's vying for himself and his ideals. Interesting. I don't want to promote any mother complex Camus has. The conversation between Bright and Emma is hysterical. Look at Bright's face as Emma tells him this shit. And then Emma tells Bright that he should be a father figure to his troops, and his response is just, damn. Jared gets put in charge of these two new type candidates, and the character with actual dialogue, Sarah, is dumb. Like, I don't want to kill people. Are you fucking serious? You joined the Tetons and you don't want to do the one thing that the Tetons were founded to do? Jared's anger at Sarah isn't out of some arrogance or anything malicious. He's worried that this literal child, she's 15 because child soldiers are okay in Gundam, is going to get herself killed for her naivete. And I say that because of how distraught he is about Siddeley's death. Right. That ship you mentioned is pretty large. Gundam Build Fighters is the mecha sports series you seek. No. Okay. New MSs, and we'll leave off there. Very good. Very Gucci. Next up is 23, and it's 23 alone. Awesome. So it seemed like I did 23 alone, I did 24 alone, and we'll see how those play out. Pop. And what's the title of the episode? Moon Attack. Beckoner and Wong discuss about the Earth Federation Government General Assembly. Wong wants Quattro to act as bodyguard to Blex, but Quattro is worried about the Tetons' soon-to-be operations on the moon. Katz is excited by the prospect of returning to the Argama. Emma stumbles on Camus cleaning his room. He reveals to her just how much he's matured about the war, telling her that he even prays for those he ends up killing in combat, even though he doesn't have any religion, and Fa overhears them. The Radish approaches the Argama, brings some supplies, while the Degosi Gear rendezvous with the Alexandria. Sirocco reviews the battle plan for Operation Apollo. They are to attack first over at the as Commander Jamaicon cowardly plans to use the Degosi Gear as a shield. Sirocco provokes Jared about his previous failures, and he angrily leaves the meeting. Right. At the hangars, Rakoa teaches Fa how to use the Methus, as Camus ponders how it's unusual for so many women to be on the front lines. This is where we really get into that stuff that starts to be interesting on the women front. We've got Fa piloting, we've got Rakoa piloting, we've got all these characters piloting, and lots of male characters looking at that and being like, what's up with the ladies piloting the mechas? And of course, that's a reflection on Tomino's own ideals and ideas about what Zeta Gundam is about. So this is really the point in the show where I started to become more confused about some of the underlying stuff, right? The broad strokes of things happening, I think I understand, but the underlying interpersonal relations start to become fuzzy to me because I didn't grok it. So this is where we're going to get the most value, I think, out of this rewind idea. The Radish is then forced to postpone their delivery when their sensors locate the approaching enemy fleet. Quattro launches in the Hyakushiki. Follow Sirocco's lead, commence Operation Apollo. The Degosi Gear fires some warning shots. All available pilots rush toward the city in order to defend it. Mobile suit unit descends. Sirocco wants to move ahead from the fleet, leaving the Alexandria to deal with the Ayug, while using Jared and his unit as decoys so that he can secure the city by himself. Mauer launches from the Degosi Gear by herself in order to help Jared. The independent actions catch the Ayug by surprise. Camus and Quattro face off against Jared and Mauer, who is shocked to learn that Jared understood Sirocco's plan all along and still went forward with it. Also, he could have a chance to get back at Camus. A wounded Jared proceeds to fire aimlessly at Camus and Quattro, who retreat. Mauer watches him quietly. Sirocco moves ahead and secures the city, threatens to destroy it unless they accept a ceasefire, and the Ayug is forced to retreat. Jamaicon is furious and even slaps him, but Sirocco keeps his composure, feigning ignorance and even telling Jamaicon that he and his crew should control the city in his stead. Right, he bows out and gives the credit to Jamaicon, which is fascinating, because Sirocco has bigger goals in play. Jamaicon calms down and leaves, failing to notice that it was all just a ruse, as Sirocco has greater plans in mind, even if he is forced to temporarily act as Jamaicon's underling. Right. He's plotting. He's plotting, man. He is plotting usurpation. A little bit of a coup. Jared is taken to the infirmary again. Mauer keeps him company again. At the Argama, Fa once again cries, frustrated with her inability to keep up with the other pilots, but they all try to cheer her up. The fact, however, is that the operation was a success, and Von Braun's city, a highly relevant point for strategic and military purpose, now belongs to the Tetons. Bingo. Okay, 23. Chic Quattro advertisement. Wow. 4 blades makes it 3 times faster than the leading razor, the preferred razor of the Ayug, the Quattro. That's cute. That's very cute. Good guy, Jared counter. Quote of the day. Whatever, we're winning anyway. Jared is still upset over the loss. When asked to insult Siddeley by Sirocco, Jared instead pays her respect, right? Because it's not quite what the wiki said. He pays her respect and storms out of the mission briefing, even when forced to. Does not sound happy when he realizes Sirocco is using his allies as bait. Despite his own orders setting himself up as further bait, Jared goes along with them despite the immense danger, since it is his duty. He even takes on the Red Comet, who has the superior mobile suit and new type abilities. Fond of mind rape, Sirocco's new type aura sickens Jared. Fine with risking or sacrificing his own life if it means defeating Camus and avenging Lila and Kakarikon. Rough. Jared forgives Mauer for stopping him from taking revenge at the cost of his own life, despite how furious it initially made him, showing that he has definitely grown up from earlier in the series. Accepts that in war, some people have to serve as decoys, and he accepts that this time it was him. He doesn't hate Sirocco for using him like a tool when he had a right to. Reassures Mauer that his injuries are just a scratch when she is worried about him, when in fact he's on a stretcher and has an eye bandage. He explicitly says not to worry, taking on the burdens of the world himself. It is reported that despite everything, Jared did not at all complain when he could easily have grumbled for being used like he was in the episode. Some Gihren's greed stuff. Oh, hey, look, Reinhard. The first decision has Garmin in a position much like Reinhard von Lohengrin in Legend of the Galactic Heroes when faced with the imminent... Okay, we can't talk about that because I'm not going to spoil one of the most excellent parts of Ginga Eiyu Densetsu for you. Just go watch Ginga Eiyu Densetsu Legend of the Galactic Heroes. You got to go watch it. Large-scale space battles are back, essentially as bait. Paptimus can be brutal to his subordinates. Didn't even want to send help to Jared. Mauer had to mobilize on her own. Right. The Ayug also have their own problems. Fa is still not a very good pilot, and the fight clearly has a heavy impact on her. A lot of characters react to warfare differently, and Fa takes her perceived failures pretty hard. There's dissent within the Tetons. Jamaicon is not pleased by Paptimus's actions, but it gets played to Paptimus's advantage. He gets the glory of the conquering and leaves occupying it, the actual difficult part, to Jamaicon, and Paptimus makes it look like he's sorry. Well played. Yeah. Yeah. I like how Paptimus has an aura so massively unpleasant that Camus, Char, and Jared all commented on it in the battle. That's right. All of them were like, whoa, what's that? Whoa, what's that? Who's that? That's a weird person over there. Right. Paptimus, like, he walks around or flies around in his mobile suit carrying real evil with him. Real, like, sliminess. It's really fascinating that everybody else can sense it, too. Pretty cool. Another mic level up. Oh, is this where I switched mics? Maybe. I don't know. Tomino is considered as the master of editing and is said to condense episodes of a show into its maximum density. Simple conversations are often made into single phrases. Some people refer to it as the Tomino Bushi in Japan. You can say it's almost a dialect on how people speak in his shows. Example, my mobile suit is not moving the way I want it to because, damn, gravity! I think your analysis of women in the show and the correlation with the workforce dynamics in Japan is spot on, and Tomino shows are always interested in sexuality and gender dynamics in deep ways. Yeah, I was wondering, this is where I started wondering about that, and I didn't have the context of the actual writing that Tomino puts down about, like, no, that's what this show's about. It's about, should women be in the pilot's chair? And maybe, as Tomino would phrase it, maybe they're not built for it. Yeah, interesting. Nowadays, I think about the pilots I've killed. This is something we've seen from Camus ever since the Jaburo operation, where he was focused on the pilots, launching in outdated mobile suits directly into the meat grinder, right? As they're all falling, and Camus is like shooting fish in a barrel. He's really affected by that. He's really quite affected by that. Seems exactly correct. It's a nice continuation of his character, and I think it plays into his thoughts of women on the battlefield. Jared, Sirocco's using you as a decoy. Yeah, that was the plan. You expressed most of my thoughts on Jared's growth and maturity, but I wanted to add that he understood Sirocco's plan and went along with it because it gave him a chance to fight and almost kill Camus. He had Camus in his crosshairs before Mauer drifted in front of him. He didn't fire because he's not a monster and Mauer is a comrade, but it also shows the growing self-destruction Jared is engaging in, and that he was okay with dying if it meant killing Camus. Well, Jared keeps losing people, and that survivor's guilt is creeping in, and people who lose enough people and get enough survivor's guilt often want to be ended. So going out in a blaze of glory to take down his true enemy seems exactly like the kind of thing that would be beyond the money for Jared's actions. I think old types should stay in the background is literally about old types, as in non-new types, because he says the English world old type. When new types are talked about, the characters also say new type in English. If this is true, it's an interesting look at Jared's thoughts, because it means he already considers himself a new type. Way back in early Zeta, Lila coaches Jared in what seems to be some new type stuff. Emanate your mind throughout the vacuum of space. Feel the enemy's hostility through the armor of your mobile suit. After Lila's death, Jared does have what seems to be a new type moment where he hears and sees an apparition of Lila after her death. Very, very much like Lala. Lala, you know. And in this episode, we see Jared have a better performance against Camus than the previous episode. We see him, Sarah, and Holly take out Von Braun's mobile suit garrison in seconds. Also, that cassette Camus gave to Torres was 100% porn. Porn never changes. More mobile suits. Sorry, I'm not going to read that. Sarah was shown to be a sort of subordinate to Sirocco. That's probably why Maura thinks she might know what Sirocco is trying to do. Fair enough. Political stuff. Commodore Blex, leader of the AUG and the one-year war veteran, is going to be attending the Earth Federation General Assembly. This says a lot because it implies that the AUG, through Blex, has institutional power and political sway if their leader can just go to what is basically their enemy's meeting. But what is important to remember is that the AUG has been confirmed by the narrator to be a faction within the Federation. What the conflicts so far have been are two factions fighting over who gets to be in charge of the Federation. Quattro has been appointed to be his bodyguard. Von Braun, in addition to be a strategic foothold for the conquest of space, is also the largest city on the moon. Yeah. Used musical gear can sometimes be found for half off. Yep, very true. Just some things I've done to capture vocals, and I hope it gives you ideas. Awesome. And I'm gonna leave it there. On to 24. And unless I get really stuck on 24, or unless I feel the need to go forward from there, we'll probably do 24 as our last one for the day. Because I only have so much focus I can do. The next episode is Counterattack. So these are in order: Counterattack, and then the next one will be Colony Drop, and that's a great place to start. And Counterattack is an excellent place to, I think, sit and talk about this. Episode 24, Counterattack. Got all of the different things up and ready to go. And here we go. The Tetons have taken over Von Braun City. Quattro and Blex go to Earth, as Blex is supposed to participate in the meeting of the Earth Federation Parliament in Dakar, Africa, along with other important figures like Jamatov Hyman. Bright tasks Camus with recon work on Von Braun City under the alias of Shri Climb. His mission... I forgot that. Hey, Shri Climber! For some reason, that makes me think of the Shrike in Dan Simmons' Hyperion, which, by the way, fantastic book. That's not the cover that I... This is the cover. This one. That cover. This. So fucking cool. The Tesla trees in the background. The great ship over a field of grain. And this spike monster made of spines. Ooh, I love this book. The whole Hyperion Cantos is some of the most interesting writing in existence. Really, really stands out to me. And Endymion is amazing as well. This is the whole series, yeah. With the original covers. Bingo. Always the Shrike watching over. Always, always. Ooh, go read the Hyperion Cantos. I might have to go find that as an audiobook. I'll grab it off of Audiobook Bay, which, by the way, is like the Pirate Bay for audiobooks. Audiobookbay.net. They're legit, and there are lots of books, and you can go find lots of books there. Just so you know, I highly recommend audiobookbay.net. It works. Okay, moving on. Bright tasks Camus with reconnaissance work. His mission is to gather data on the enemy's numbers and also to find out how the general public is reacting to the sudden occupation. Katz sneaks into his vehicle unnoticed, and we continue the thread of Katz doing stupid things that get him in lots of trouble. I don't remember if this actually gets him in trouble, but, you know, same thread. At the hotel where they are staying, Blex is outraged after finding out that the government wants to hand over command of the Federation forces to the Tetons. His plan is to issue an urgent motion suggesting that all Earth politicians move to space, where they will be better able to understand the space knowledge situation. Fascinating as a concept. As promised, Sirocco leaves Von Braun in the Gossi, leaving control in the hands of Jamaicon and his goons. Because of Jared's injury, he is left behind at the Alexandria with Mauer at his side. She asks Jamaicon for permission to join the Alexandria's mobile suit team, but Jamaicon refuses, arguing they have enough pilots already. Just go take a break. Once there, however, Jared recognizes Camus snooping around the Titan's base and gives chase. Camus is even held at gunpoint, right? This is where we play things out really weird, and we end up in all these different crowds and different boxes and different rooms and stuff. Is able to escape thanks to cats, and they're able to hide in the crowded streets. Going back to the hotel, Quattro finds that Commodore Blex has been shot in an undercover assassination attempt. With his last breath, Blex addresses him as Char Aznable and urges him to become the leader the AUG needs and change the world. The thing that Char wants to do least. Pick up your mantle, your responsibility as the Red Comet, as Char Aznable. I know exactly who you are, and you must act. Something that Char has been unwilling to do for the entire show. Meanwhile, a unit led by Teton's Lieutenant Yazan... Woo! The boy is here! The boys are back in town! Spots the Argama. He decides to chase them without consulting the Alexandria and with no regards to the city so nearby. Apolly launches in one of the ships Rick Diaz, followed by Emma, now piloting the Mark II. Fa doesn't stay behind either, launching in the Methus. Once again, however, she's outmatched by her opponents and nearly killed. Camus senses that a battle is breaking out close to them, and Jamaicon is notified of Yazan's actions, ordering their fleet to launch. Because they don't know where in the city Jared and Mauer are, Jamaicon orders them to get their attention with an air raid alarm. As the battle rages on, Von Braun becomes the setting of the battle, endangering the lives of civilians. Most people hide in emergency bunkers, and by sheer coincidence, Camus and Katz find themselves in the same emergency bunker as Jared and Mauer. There, both sides are quick to find out just how much the locals despise the Tetons and their barbaric ruthlessness. Yeah, they assaulted the city. You know, they're sitting there, and I remember that scene very poignantly. Everybody in the bunker is like, man, fuck the Tetons. I hate those fuckers. They suck. And Jared's sitting there like, oh, interesting. Are we the baddies? Hold on, let me find a thing. Hold on. Just introduce you.
Why skulls?
Well, maybe they're the skulls of our enemies.
Why skulls, though?
A lot less worried, Hans.
Okay. So...
Are we the baddies? Yeah, you're the baddies, guys. Camus senses Rakoa approaching the Zeta Gundam. Definitely not psychic, though. Escapes the bunker with Katz, followed by Jared and Mauer, trying to go back to the Alexander so that they can join in the fight. Katz is injured. Rakoa stays behind to look after him. Camus boards the Zeta, engages the Gaplant, which is that's the floaty manta ray, right? No, it's the triple weirdo zippity zapper that is Yazan's first thing. Good. AUG has taken over the city's power station. Mobile suits are struggling in battle. Jamaicon orders the rest to abandon the city. The Parliament votes to turn all of its power over to Jematov Hyman, making the Titans the de facto rulers of the Earth Federation government. Quattro, however, wonders how long such a decision will stand. Yeah. Aboard the Argama, Fa mourns because of the destruction caused by their battle, and her role in it to some extent, I think. Jared and Mauer end up in the Alexandria. Camus is just happy that they're all alive and wonders how things are going with Quattro and Blex. Not amazingly. Characters introduced. Yazan! The boy! Alright. 24 counterattack. Gundam Noodles. Is this a... Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh my god. New OP, yep. Blex gets assassinated, and the Tetons gain control of the rest of the Earth Federation forces. Also, Yazan says hi. Yeah. Quote of the day, I swear someday I'm going to make that fool kneel before me. Jared speaking of Jamaicon. Someday I will make that man kneel before me. Let's go, Jared. I hope so. And actually, well, spoilers. Good guy Jared counter. asks a favor from Jamaicon despite resenting him, accepts the idea of going shopping and taking a holiday, uses the opportunity even if Jamaicon is trying to get him and Mao out of the way, gets Camille out of trouble with an officer who was close to arresting him. Could have just allowed it. Jared must have wanted the chance to talk to Camille and then arrest him personally, likely after discussing their feud. Could have killed him outright for being what amounts to being a terrorist, but instead he chose to talk, only for Camille to run away. He's very nice to the Federation officer, who he's convincing to let Camille go, tackles Camille instead of shooting him, continues his quest to avenge, and is furious that he lost him to someone like Camille, states that he plans on locking him up, confirming that he doesn't even intend to kill him in cold blood like he might as well. Once again chooses to give physical chase when it would be much easier to shoot him, only trying to use his gun when the armed criminals get too far away to reach. When Katz pulls a weapon on him, Jared's tone of voice about shooting inside a crowd of civilians is negative, even though he is still willing to defend himself in Mauer. Mauer mentions how impressed she was that Jared has changed, that before he would act on his emotions without thinking ahead, but now that he's now growing into the sort of person who could actually be a leader and not just a foot soldier. Asks Jamaicon for permission to launch, once again getting over a personal grudge to try and accomplish something. Hell yeah. First face-to-face meeting that they've had in a long time. Emotional person and the rational person. Yep, to some extent. Jared has grown really emotional, and it's been clouding his judgment, but he was able to put that behind him and behave more rationally. Katz, on the other hand, is really desperate to get into battle. Tried to take in a mobile suit to a fight a long while ago. Snuck off to fight again in this episode. Was half convinced he was going to get killed. Yep. Someone who did get killed was Blex. Tells Char that he needs to become the leader of the AUG. I don't know, man. Char has a history of sociopathy and killing others to further his own ends. I don't think he's the type you want in charge. It's not about whether you want Char in charge. It's about the fact that he's in the position to take it. Because of who he is, because of his history, all he would have to do is step into the role that is his name. To be who he really is. That's what Blex asks him for. But he won't do it. It's interesting. Yeah, it was the AUG side that got the fight into the city. Emma shot down the hijack that crashes through the roof, and Fa falls in, and then Fa actually shows regret at what she's done. Yeah, which is character development. The Tetons seem to abandon the Moon City awfully quickly. They only got their last episode. Exactly. Well, they don't actually care. They don't have like some overarching goal. It's not like, well, we're going to take over this city so that we can make sure that the people in the city are safe, you know? It's all a power game to them anyway. And so it's chips on a board. They don't care about, it's a pawn. It's like, oh, I'll move this pawn here so that you move your knight there and then you sacrifice your knight and haha. It's all about destroying the enemy, not about protecting the self or saving your own people or doing anything of genuine value. Yeah. It really says something about the Tetons, how willing they are to abandon the city that they just fought and died for. He can't keep his eyes off her. I know, right? Oh, it's so cute. Oh, Hankin. Oh. Oh, Hotto. Yep. The standoff at the safety chamber was interesting. Katz was being a badass. Still better than shooting in there and risking the civilians. I hope you don't die and that day actually comes, Jared. Indeed. Indeed. And comments. The thumbs up is slightly different. In the original OP, he was smiling, and now he is not. His smile and optimism are gone. All three are adaptations. New OP is my favorite. Every time you say Teton, I laugh. As much as the subtitles steer you to pronounce it as it is in English, the sounds you hear are so affecting. Or he has just had too much tea in his life. Well, I actually think of the Grand Tetons, is what I think of. Is immediately what I think of are... the Teton Mountain Range in Wyoming, which is a national park that I have been to, along with the area around Yellowstone and Jackson Hole. The Grand Tetons, or it literally means big titties. It is literally what it means. The great breasts of mountains. The Grand Tetons are what I think of. So when they say Tetons, I think Tetons, and it lodges in my brain. It will always be Tetons to me. Finally, Yazan! It's funny seeing his introduction is basically, here's Yazan. He is also here. It's also oddly fitting for the character. Yeah, you think he'll be just another enemy with a goofy name that will get killed by Kamui or something, but no. No. That boy is a Yakuza member. He's fully a biker ganger. Like, what? And he just shows up and is like, sup, I'm here now and I'm an asshole. Oh, so cool. I remember this episode. It was where I decided to take a big break from the series. I simply couldn't cope with the change in the OP. You will be missed, OP1. The Zeta Gundam is coming. This is really odd. Kamui doesn't say Rakoa is coming. He says his mobile suit is coming. He seems to have some weird connection to the Zeta. Yeah. I'll make that man kneel before me. Jared's just trying to have a nice shopping trip with his waifu, and Kamui just shows up to ruin it. When he meets Kamui in the hangar, he doesn't apprehend him. He covers for him, presumably to talk. Unfortunately, Kamui books it the second he looks away. Also, those civilians in the bunker wouldn't have stood a chance against Jared. Remember that time he punched his way through a crowd of soldiers in the Jaburo episode? I do think it says something that the only one who stood up to him was the child. All those adults just stood back and watched. Yeah, well, you learn what's dangerous as you grow up. Children don't know what they're getting into. Quattro's a terrible bodyguard. Where was he and what was he doing that was so important he left his charge alone to get assassinated? It's unclear and not shown to us in the story. Fa is such a good, nice, kind person. You really can't say that about most Gundam characters. When she says that Von Braun was destroyed because of her, I think it's because Yazan, a new character piloting the Ga plant, chased her when she ran into the city. And because she followed in and brought the battle into play, you know? And what's 23 minutes the meme? There it is. Oh, shit! Kamui, where's Cats? Oh, right. And then there he is, and he just immediately gets exploded. Good. I don't know what the meme is. Very good. Very happy. Next up would be 2526. What did I title this one? Caught in the Crossfire. Counterattack. Colony drop is 25. This is where we start to get Sarah brought over, and we do a bunch of weird shit with Sarah in there, and confusingness and mixing and matching and blurring the lines between people and communicating between sides. Fascinating stuff to unpack there. I'm running to the edge of my genuine ability to focus heavily. And so, with what do we have left? We've got 10 episodes left, right? To get back to where we were? Let me check. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, right? 33, 34, and then into rewinds. No, 33, 34, 35. So we have 11 episodes left. So 5 and 6, 6 and 5. Great. Or it could be 4, 4, 3 or something like that. Fine. Good. Then, and I think what we will do is for those last couple of episodes, I will simply rewatch them instead of rewinding them. Like 34, 35, the last ones where I was most confused, instead of going through and using all these separate media, we will go ahead and rewatch them. For now, we will leave off here, and we will resume next time with episode 25, Colony Drop, as things begin to ramp up in stakes. Commodore Blex's assassination feels like a big jumping off point, and the OP swap feels like a secondary big jumping off point. So, having dipped our foot in, the next episode is where things become really weird and interesting, and start to get a bit of ramping up of stakes, as far as I can tell. We start not just dealing with the stakes of a couple of mecha pilots, but instead stakes of Von Braun City as a whole, and then the stakes of an entire colony dropped on somewhere important. And things begin to move in the direction that brings Axis into the fold and into the framing. And that feels like a good place to leave off. So, thank you for watching this week's episode of the Gundam Rewind. I hope you've enjoyed it to some extent, or at least tolerate my decision to do this thing that we've been doing. If you really enjoy the content, I'd appreciate your support in the form of likes and comments and subscriptions to the channel. And if you really, really appreciate it, you can show that via joining the channel with the channel memberships, sending a super thanks or whatnot, or simply heading over to the Patreon and throwing me $1 so that you can get into the Discord and discuss Gundam and all the other shows on the channel with everybody else. Thanks so much for watching this week's Rewind. I'll see you next time for the next one. Peace.